Well, good morning, everybody. It's Dan Eberhard here from Eberhard Ag Solutions. We have a very special guest kicking off our weekly webinar today, a fellow by the name of Rob Stake. And we're scooting around the internet looking at all the things that Rob's done in his career, and it's very impressive. He's a corporate leader with Trimble and Agritrend, founder of Agritrend, visionary, entrepreneur, keynote speaker, amazing advocate for agriculture, strong agronomist. I've seen that in action on the farm at the field days there, and an advisor and an author. So welcome to our webinar, Rob.
Well, it's good to be on the Dan Eberhard Show.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So we've got some talking points today. With all those hats that you wear, you're doing a lot of things at once, and you seem to do it all very naturally. What are you working on right now, and what are you most passionate about right now, Rob?
Guys, when Dan asked me to be on this call with you this morning, one of the things I wanted to talk about was glyphosate gate. And glyphosate is a very, very important product globally. It's a very important product for Canadian farmers, and I don't know how many of you guys understand how much pressure glyphosate is under right now in terms of possible deregistration, particularly in the EU. And I want you guys to be aware of what's going on so you can answer these questions. Glyphosate as a product from a toxicology standpoint has a higher LD50, meaning glyphosate is safer than salt and caffeine and nicotine and aspirin. Glyphosate is a 1 in 100 year herbicide, and it's under attack. And the reason it's under attack is because there's an organization in the WHO. It's kind of an arm's length organization called the IARC, and it's an IARC WHO is how they refer to themselves, and it really is a quasi NGO organization that reviews cancer causing agents. And in 2015, they came up with the classification that glyphosate is a probable carcinogen. Now this is important because in no major study before or in no major study since has glyphosate been classified as a carcinogen. It's never been done before except for IARC. Well, the activists took up this thing, and they've thrown this all around social media saying glyphosate is cancer causing. That ruling, by the way, is the same classification as bacon. So but what's happened is ambulance chasing law firms now have taken up that ruling, and they have started class action lawsuits against glyphosate. And in Europe, glyphosate is under threat of non-re-registration, particularly in France and Italy and places like that. Now, here's the background story to the IARC. Turns out that a guy named Portier, who was on the IARC review committee, while he was on the committee, was being paid $160,000 US to appear as an expert witness, as an anti-glyphosate expert witness. And it gets worse. Another guy on the committee knew about a major large study showing that glyphosate is not a carcinogen, and he withheld that documentation from the IARC review committee, even though he knew it existed. And then it gets worse. A guy named Riskmonger on Twitter, his name is Riskmonger, he's a professor in the EU, broke the news that there was subterfuge in the monogram or the writing of the IARC glyphosate ruling. Reuters news agency has tapped into this and discovered that between the original draft and the submitted draft, the monogram, 10 key sentences were changed in the draft that were 180 degree, that basically in the original draft it said the glyphosate was non-carcinogenic, and by the time it was published it was glyphosate. They lied. They twisted the sentences around in 10 different areas as reported by Reuters news service. And so on social media, I've been pressuring CBC, who is quick to condemn neonicotinoids, and CBC, who is quick to condemn glyphosate. I say, how come you're not reporting this IARC scandal? And that's really what's been going on in the world of glyphosate, Danny.
So in your estimation then as an agronomist, and you're operating at a high level here, obviously with advocating for agriculture, but you're also got boots on the ground. What are the real world implications then for loss of glyphosate as a herbicide in North America potentially?
Well, it'll push the European Union farmers more towards the Museum of Agriculture. I mean, Sri Lanka outlawed glyphosate a couple years ago. Sri Lankan farmers now are reaching out to the government saying, you guys support us because we can't control weeds anymore. So it is that important. Can you imagine farming today without glyphosate to help us keep the land clean? We'd be back to tilling for weed control, incorporating soil-applied herbicides, or spraying a lot more. So it's a major deal.
Well, what's fascinating to me was watching your TED Talk and how really the 2% of the voice, armed with a lot of very interesting statistics for the argument of use of technology to help feed the world, is really against the 98% who seems to be influenced by some of this data that you speak of that's relatively small, given the track record of use of technology like Roundup and GMOs, and yet are you winning?
Well, that's one of the things, Dan, about this whole anti-GMO movement. They keep moving the goalposts on this thing, and next time I want to talk to you about the Cartagena Protocol and what it means. But when you're I encourage you guys that are on the call to write down and go to nogmo.ca. That's KNOW, nogmo.ca, and see the work that we've been doing as a team to provide you guys with information on what's going on in the anti-GMO, and really it's converted down into more of an anti-farming or anti-modern farming message. Whatever they want to do, they want to drive us backwards into some sort of a pre-1960s, what they think is a utopian method of farming, which is unable and unsustainable and will not provide global food security going forward.
Well, I hear your voice out there quite loudly, and I think that you're doing an amazing job of representing all of us in agriculture. But what would you say to the average producer who has a bit of a social media presence? How can you engage in a conversation that's meaningful to our goals?
The Canadian government just released a study on consumer attitudes towards agriculture and farming. It's really interesting. Consumers, by and large, don't trust agriculture, but consumers, paradoxically, trust farmers, absolutely. So as farmers, you guys have got an obligation to speak out. I mean, you said there's 2% feeding 98%. On this phone call today, you guys are 0.25%. 0.25% of North Americans grow 80% of the food. The rest of us do whatever we do. So, and you're very trusted in the eyes of a consumer. So anything that you guys do on social media is a benefit. When you see somebody distorting the truth or lying, stand up on social media and say, well, no, that's not correct. And they'll say, well, who are you? And I say, I'm a farmer. I use these things. And that pushes people back pretty quick.
That was an interesting study, and I agree. And I think that the power is in the voice of the average family farm. And we've seen it on social media with various people like Nutmeg. She had influence on, I think, federal policy here recently just by speaking out in a way that was positive. And I think we could see more of that. Tell us a little bit more about the nuts and bolts evolution of this No GMO project that you've been working on, Rob.
Well, we started out wanting to make a movie. I raised about $800,000. Minister Ritz had earmarked $500,000 for us. under Growing Forward 2 to finish the movie. I deployed the movie team. We filmed 110 hours of global footage. Harper called the election. He lost. Ritz is out, and I got a letter back rejecting my grant from the government. So I've been floating the No GMO project personally for the last 16 months or so, and we've been producing all kinds of material online, including a webisode series called Learn GMO. So on Facebook, you can find us at Learn GMO, on web, nogmo.ca, and No GMO on YouTube. And everywhere you go in my world, there's materials there for you guys to utilize at schools and online and to talk to people.
Well, and that's the scary part, is we're actually seeing large amounts of miseducation in the school system, even in rural areas where my brother farms. I mean, I think my brother had to stand up for some basic basic information about agriculture that his daughter was coming home from school, and I think everybody's seeing that reality. The kids are being educated in the wrong direction, I believe, about agriculture. Have you seen that?
Well, I mean, if it's not for the teacher, if the teachers are smart and educated about agriculture, then they will counter what's in the curriculum. But if you read the curriculum books, and we're getting more and more concerned all the time about what's being written in the textbook about farmers and farming, that's being taught to our kids. That's embedded in the curriculum. And if it's not for teachers correcting what's in the textbook, our kids are being brainwashed.
So last night we were having a chat about some of the talking points for today, and you mentioned the supercluster, and I'm not sure if you expanded your area of expertise into outer space or if that's something that has to do with agriculture, but if you could talk about the supercluster.
Yeah, very much so. I think you guys need to be aware of this. I've been very involved in a process right now called the supercluster process, and I'll give you a quick overview. The federal government has earmarked $950 million to be matched by industry. So basically $2 billion program to be divided up into 4 or 5 sectors to promote innovation in the Canadian economy. So think technology, think transportation, think mining, think agriculture. So I'm involved with something called the Smart Agri-Food Supercluster. There's 80 organizations involved in our application, including people like Agrium, Agritrend, Trimble, the beef people, Cargill, McDonald's, Microsoft, TELUS, all those kind of people. And there were 50 applications in the summer go-round that got weeded down to 9 applications. We're one of 9 left standing. There's another agriculture supercluster in Alberta, or in Saskatchewan, called the Protein Industries Canada. And so in typical agricultural fashion, instead of figuring out how to unify, we're competing against each other. But our supercluster is designed to build communities across Canada. We're designed to facilitate innovation and collaboration across this country in a brand new way to bring innovation in, connecting that innovation through industry to post-secondary education. So we just submitted last night at 7 p.m. an application for $250 million to the federal government. We've got, I think we raised about $147 million so far in our cluster, and we've left a bunch of room open so we can fold in other people. We want to be a very open and transparent cluster that will bring in and foster additional innovation. So when you guys hear about the supercluster process, it's been very, very, very hard, a lot amount of work. I've been very involved in it. Now I'm on the transitionary board for the Smart Agri-Food Supercluster. Again, that supercluster is all around multidisciplinary innovation in smart ag technology, livestock, the bioeconomy, and biogenetics and processing. So there's the four communities that we're bringing together, Dan.
Wow, that sounds really great. So what does success in that project look like to you down the road 5, 10, 20 years?
Well, I can tell you what failure looks like. Failure looks like the government says agriculture can't get its shit together, and so nobody wins. So neither one of the clusters win. Success to me, 5 or 10 years down the road, looks like the Smart Ag Supercluster wins. We reach out to protein innovation, which includes Dow AgroSciences and people like Murad from AGT. We bring them in, and after the 5-year period, Dan, the success to me looks like we have a brand new way to bring innovation into Canada. We provide brand new innovation to farmers. That innovation is exported globally. What else would it would mean that young entrepreneurs would have a place to go where they know they could be incubated and connected to channel distribution of their technology. It would mean that Canada moves from 5th in world exports to number 2 in world exports. It would mean an injection into the Canadian economy of $30 to $45 billion annually. That's what success, in my mind, would look like with this cluster.
So that sounds like a good deal, man. Well, that's really cool. And
yeah,
keep up the good work on that. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm pretty sure that, I don't know how aware people would be that there's a supercluster of that nature out there. So that's very interesting. Let's maybe drill down a little bit to the level where you're operating with Trimble and Agritrend. It's the 20th anniversary of Agritrend. I'd be really interested to know what that means for you, having taken that company from a startup to fruition, completing the entrepreneurial life cycle into selling it to Trimble. Where are you guys at now? What are you working on that's super cool?
Yeah, well, it's when you're a business guy, you start a business like Agritrend 20 years ago. I was 37 years old and start Agritrend, and it's a little bit different than a farming operation. A farming operation, and what most people don't understand about farming operation, it's about long-term sustainability, and very often it's about intergenerational transfer of wealth on a farming operation. But when you're a business guy like myself, start Agritrend, and my kids aren't really involved in the company, my baby at Agritrend is my vision and the mission. And the mission is to help farmers allocate scarce resources to produce a safe, reliable, and profitable food supply in an environmentally sustainable manner. That's a big mouthful, but that is our mission. And I want, Dan, for Agritrend as professional agricultural coaches and AgriData, that is now Trimble Ag Software, to live on beyond me. And so as we looked around to expand Agritrend with venture capital funding or whatever, we locked eyes with Trimble. One of the things that farmers really value about Agritrend is that we don't sell fertilizer, chemical, or seed. We don't buy grain, we don't sell equipment, and neither does Trimble. And so now Agritrend, in its 20th year, has the opportunity of going around the globe with Trimble, and we're starting to do that. We're in conversation with Australia, we're in conversation with former Soviet Union countries, Asian countries, and AgriData, Dan, has just been converted into its 11th language, including Ukrainian, so I can go back to the home country now. And so that's pretty cool for me as a business owner to see Agritrend, A, make it to 20 years, because most companies don't, B, stay true to its mission of providing independent, unbiased professional advice to farmers, and C, have an opportunity to go global. As agriculture moves towards precision, more precision agriculture, one of the big concerns I have out there is that people are selling farmers bells and whistles. They're selling sizzle, but they're not selling steak. And bad agronomy plus precision agriculture is bad agronomy applied. That's all it is. And so if you're going to go and move towards precision agronomy, make sure that the agronomy you are applying precisely is good agronomy. And I see too much, I see too much flash out there and not enough people paying attention to the foundational issues of agronomy, and that's AgriTrend's heart. That's what we do.
Well, it's an interesting marriage, and I've had the opportunity to observe it through my brother's business, and I think he's a good example of someone who could make use of some of the more interesting agronomic tools that Trimble has in their toolbox. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those things like SIS and the drone and PurePixel and what you guys are working with that's going to integrate into your agronomic services going forward?
Right. Well, Trimble's an interesting company because they're very entrepreneurial. I think their turnover last year was about $2.6 billion, but they're extremely entrepreneurial, and they acquire companies like AgriTrend and AgriData. They acquire these companies, and one of the companies they acquired was a company called Soil Information System, or SIS. And SIS is the most advanced soil sampling system in the world today. There's nothing that even comes close to it. And the reason that SIS is so advanced is because it's like an MRI of your soil. It effectively goes down into the soil, slicing your soil in layers that give you insight as to depth of rooting, water holding capacity, texture layers in the soil, compaction layers, these physical things that are at the root or the heart of agronomic performance of your fields. And so we rolled out SIS in Canada this year, and this fall we did, I think we did about 3,000, 4,000 acres this fall. The SIS machine is deployed from Alberta. It goes down to 48 inches. The maps are twofold. We have a surface map, which is an electrical conductivity map, which you guys are familiar with. That'd be an EM38 or a Veris. And then as we go down with the diver, that's where the MRI side of the equation with SIS takes hold. So it's an exciting technology. That's our ground technology, Dan. And then from the sky, Trimble owns companies called PurePixel and eCognition, and both those companies are very much involved in our ability to provide farmers with biovegetative index maps of your field called PowerZone, which are historic, multi-year, layered maps that you could use as a foundation to start generating your zones. Also in-season imagery, and that can all be tied onto your smartphone with Trimble Ag Software Mobile that a lot of you guys on the call may be familiar with. But that software, AgriData, that's now Trimble Ag Software, was developed by us in Alberta. And it was programmed by Saskatchewan farm boys, Kevin Pattison and Chris Paul. And that product, that AgriData product, I will argue is one of the most robust data platforms and agricultural management systems on the planet today for farmers. And most of you guys don't even know that it exists, and most people don't even know that we built it. And now it's global. So we got to have more people using Trimble Ag software. Well,
that is the interesting part, is that there's a lot of talk about how do you integrate all these systems and technology, and there's
we've done it.
Of stuff that, yeah, I mean, you've ridden with my brother in a vehicle, and he can flip on his phone, and as he's attending a seminar and his wife's back home, Lachelle's running the farm, he can see what's going on his smartphone. Yeah. He's 80% of the way there. Can I ask you then, as an, I guess at heart, you know, you started out with AgriTrend as an agronomic consultant to people on the ground. What would you say to producers in Western Canada today? Where do you feel like, if you could boil it down to simple terms, where are they hitting the mark, and where are they missing the mark in terms of choosing what technology and how to go about producing crops?
Okay, in my 20 years of AgriTrend and 35 years of my career, I've watched you guys as farmers in Western Canada. And I was asked the other day, Country Guide did a big article, it's going to be coming out on AgriTrend in 20 years. They said, you know, you seem to be an out-of-the-box thinker. And I'm going, no, It's just that our box is really, really small. And they go, what do you mean? And I say, well, to really be innovative, you can say think outside the box, or you can have a really small box. And you guys as Western Canadian farmers, if you think about it, have got a very, very small box. You're very constrained. You have to put the crop in the ground in 35 days. You have to grow it in 90 days. You have to take it off in 45 days. That is the tightest agricultural commerce on the planet today. I guess it would be equal to some parts of Russia, maybe Siberia, but we are masters at this. And the reasons we're so good at this is because of the skill of our farmers. You guys are really, really, really bright people. And when you think about the innovation, Dan, that's come out of Western Canada in air seeder technology, for example, whether it's Seedhawk or Seedmaster or Bourgault or Jim Halford's Conservapac, we led the way. We led the way globally in air seeder technology. Why? Because we got to get the shit in the ground quick. When it comes to precision agriculture, Echelon has been acquired by CPS, and so Echelon is now going global with Agrium. Farmer's Edge has got a lot of venture capital. Farmer's Edge is going globally. Agritrend has gone globally with Trimble. Decisive Ag is. All of these are Western Canadian companies. Why is all of the innovation why is so much of the innovation in air seeders, so much of the innovation in precision agriculture coming out of Western Canada? I'll tell you why, Dan. Really small boxes. So we've got to match up logistics with agronomics. Both have to fit together. You can't, and in larger farming operations, too often I see logistics trumping agronomics, and that's a sad thing.
That's a really interesting concept, and I do believe that to be correct given the large acreage and tight margins and the need for innovation. It's the mother of invention, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might have missed something, but it looks like we're leading with the robotics out there as well with the introduction of DOT at
yeah, no question. No question. Yeah, DOT is going to be a good one. And Dan, so I want to bring up, and I know you're going to bring it up anyway, so might as well just talk about it. But I want to bring up BioCycle and what you guys are doing. So this is your world now, guys. So I want to bring up the fact that agronomics and logistics, and I've got elemental sulfur and BioCycle now on virtually all of my customers' fields now. So I still coach some farmers. You guys might not think I actually work, but I work. I still coach some farmers, and on those farmers' fields, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to deal with the logistics. And so when I'm working on trying to figure out how to make things work at farm level, I want to make sure I can do things quickly. And so this application of sulfur on the land is just critical because it allows me to focus in on the rest of the fertilizer package, and that's just critical for me. I will go so far as to predict something. I think that once you guys get the sulfur in position, you will start paying more attention to the next lowest hanging fruit, and that is potassium. And right on the heels of your broadcast sulfur, what I would like to see is broadcast variable rate potassium. So I want to get my sulfur in position, and you guys are going flat rate with that, and that's cool. Because of the nature of the product, it'll release over time. I'm good with that. I'm throwing 250 and 400 pounds on the fields, 400 pounds towards southern Alberta where the pHs are high. But with potash as my next step, and if Glenn Helgeson is on the phone, this is the next step, Glenn. You get your sulfur in position, and then what you do is you broadcast potash, but you variable rate the potash because some parts of the field with low soil texture need a lot more potash because they're more prone to drought, and other parts of the field where the soil texture is heavier need less. once you got that out of the way, sulfur and potassium, then variable rate fertilizer is a snap. Throw a liquid kit, for example, on the drill to get your pop-up done. Do your variable rate phosphate and your variable rate nitrogen with your slow release characteristics, and then do your micros somewhat through the soil and through the sprayer, and Bob's your uncle. You've really cracked the code, and you've done the best of both worlds. You've combined strong agronomics with efficient logistics, and I love that.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that, and there has been some talk of variable rating this BioSol product as well. I know my brother did, and we've been discussing it with Corey Wellness and different people about how to effectively do that. But I agree, it's interesting when people start using BioSol, it sort of changes their whole fertility regime, and they get broadcast, puts up all kinds of other possibilities. Another thing is just circling back to our original advocacy conversation. I think this is one of the better sustainability stories that producers could find in agriculture, and you get an opportunity to tell your city cousins at Christmas that you're recycling their grocery waste back into fields. It's actually a positive thing to talk about rather than, combating all this misinformation with negativity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And credit to you, Dan, because when you first came out with this, I wasn't sure that story was going to sell, but in the end, it is exactly the right thing to do to talk about how we're utilizing, because food waste is always talked about, and let's face it, we're not going to eliminate food waste. There's always going to be some wastage of food, so we need to figure out how we're going to deal with it.
Well, everyone knows that I'm a salesman, but I do say now and then that it's our moral obligation to use BioSol on your field. So, but. Yeah, speaking of trade shows, hey, we're pretty excited about Farm Forum event coming up, man. That is one hardcore trade show in terms of knowledge, networking, and fun. It's extraordinary. Just walk us through that experience a little bit.
You bet. Guys, I don't know how much money you guys have got invested in equipment, but I would say that it's a whack pile. How's that for accurate numbers? You guys got a whack pile of money invested in equipment, and one of the things I think you need to invest a whack pile of money in is yourself. And so the Farm Forum event is really designed as a learning event. It's about learning and growing. It's about you choosing from around 70 breakout sessions. And this year, Dan, we've got 3 major tracks. One is a technology agronomic, or one is a agronomic track, one is a technology track, and one is a marketing and farm business management track. So as a farmer, if I was coming to the Farm Forum event, I wouldn't come alone. I'd bring my son, daughter, or manager with me, and I would split up and I would visit these tracks because I don't know of another event where you can come and be exposed to university level or strategic level courses in the course of 2.5 days. I just don't know where else you could go to get the same amount of energy. This year, our keynote speakers, we've got a Harward Schaefer, to talk on policy. I've been after him for years, Dan, and his topic is Trump, Trudeau, and trade. And that's going to be a really good talk. We got Jason Lusk from the University of Oklahoma. This guy is just amazing when it comes to tracking consumer trends and the power that consumers have over politicians and policy. That's going to be very interesting. I also got, let's see here, Thomas Hager is speaking, and he is the author of the book, The Alchemy of Air, that talks about the Haber-Bosch process, that's nitrogen fertilizer. And for our banquet speaker, I've got a guy named David Baer to talk about your mindset, which is a big thing at Strategic Coach, Dan. David Baer talks about mindset and how you need to how you need to set up your mind for success. And I think that's very important for everybody on the call. So the farm, and if you're coming and you want to come earlier on Tuesday, Trimble is hosting Trimble Ag software training that's included as part of your Farm Forum event registration. And there'll be Genius Bar set up through the course of the conference as well. So that's all happening. With General Mills there talking about what they're seeing in terms of how they're managing their food sustainability initiatives. So it's just one hell of a celebrating Canada's 150th anniversary. There's going to be music there. Yep, I'll be there. Register at farmforumevent.com.
Absolutely. I love everything you're saying here, and it occurs to me often that your level of success is directly related to your level of personal development. I don't think there's that many opportunities in agriculture to experience something like this well beyond your average Kick the Tires trade show. It's just got a ton of, it's just completely different piece.
This isn't a Kick Your Tires trade show at all. Yeah, this is vastly different.
Well, you've got a rock and roll. You've got another speaking engagement. You've given us a lot.
I'm speaking at the Calgary Economic Development Board today on as a panelist on agriculture. So it'll be interesting. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. So one final question. Then you outlined a lot of keynote speakers that are going to be at the event, but I think a lot of people are curious, given the 20th anniversary of AgriTrend. Is Steve Stubblejumpsky going to be making an appearance of any way, shape, or form?
I don't know. I haven't talked to Steve yet to see if he's going to be coming and appearing on the stage. We have to give Steve a call and find out if he's going to show up or not. Actually, I need to do that, Dan. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, and tell Steve if he's going to show up. I'd be really excited to see him again. And that I would probably buy a CD or something if he's selling any CDs or anything like that.
All righty. Hey, I got to do that. Steve could sell some CDs for Christmas presents. I'll have to get some there. Yeah. Good.
Oh, I love it.
All right.
That's so cool. We're going to have a great time. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for your time. I know you're a busy guy, and this is huge value to the network. And good luck with your talk, and we'll see you at Farm Forum event then.
Yeah, I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of the work you're doing, and I want to just say hi to all you guys that are listening on the phone. All 2 of you, no, 20 of you, 200 of you, I don't know. Anyways, nice to be on the call with you, Dan, and we'll see you in a couple weeks in Calgary.
Appreciate it, Rob. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Okay. Hello, everybody. Still on the call here. I'm just trying to get my, how do I get out of this? Okay, I'm going to try and switch my slides here, but I got a bit of a challenge. Okay, we're working anyway. So we're going to do our regular webinar now. We had Rob on just through time constraints. We needed to have him on first, so I'm going to block and tackle this webinar. The first thing that I always talk about on these webinars is safety. And today I'm going to be talking about safety, scoreboard. I'm going to talk about why you should look at the early order program being a stocking dealer versus a commission dealer. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going to be happening with Farm Forum events, and I'm going to talk about our hospitality event. And I think that's about it. So stick with me here, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed that so far. So in terms of safety, I think it's always helpful to tell a story instead of just maybe read through a hazard analysis. And this is one that really touched me this week. I heard of a individual that, family man, good farm guy, a great upstanding guy in the community a couple of years ago in Yorkton, lost his life by going into a bin that was heated. It wasn't coming into the auger. And that to me was just unbelievable to think of the loss that was needless there. So that's just a reminder for us all to be cognizant and aware of safety and make it home at the end of the day. The scoreboard, this is interesting. Today is the last day of our early order program that we put on a couple weeks ago, and we'll be touching base with some of you on the deals that we're still working on, and we're looking for any customer orders if you've offered that to your customers. It'll be interesting to see where we land in terms of sold acres and purchase orders and whatnot. but I don't really have that number right now because we anticipate it to change greatly today, and we've got some pretty big deals underway with quite a few dealers. So we offered this early order program, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago now, and it's essentially we're passing along a manufacturer's rebate, and we're working to hit our targets in November and December in Saskatchewan and Manitoba on behalf of the manufacturer. And we've got a couple tools in our toolbox here, but one is discount to customers to get the blood flowing at a time of year when maybe it's hard to think about sulfur. Another is that we want to be making deals with stocking dealers. So for customers, it's $255 a metric ton in Saskatchewan, 40% down payment, and due upon delivery. We'd like to deliver as soon as possible, but if it's not until later into the spring, we'll deal with that. It's all about customer service. But we are offering some special dealer deals, and we want to work with guys on that rate. I want to talk a little bit about early order programs in general, and I found this as I was surfing around the internet. It's just a little bit of a pie chart to get the blood flowing. It's not necessarily our exact business, but I think this will continue to evolve, and we're always looking how to shape this beast. We're always looking how to build a tribe. We're looking at how to get this product to market. It's our duty to get this product to market as best we can, is how I see it. And here it's just a questionnaire. Do you participate in distributors and manufacturers' chemical fertilizer early order programs? 18% answered that they participated only in distributor, 6% only in manufacturer, 19% participate in both. So I guess if I did the math here, this represents about 45% of people in business in this segment that would be working through early order programs, and 57% said they never participated. So I'd be interested to do the breakdown and see how many of our guys are participating in this and moving in that direction. And also the percentage of annual chemical and fertilizer purchases procured through, that's a hard word, procured through early order programs. And here we have the numbers. Less than 25% is at 57%, 25% is at 26 to 50%, 7% is at 51. So there's going to be a proportion of fertilizer, and this is in our industry, a good portion of product is moved through manufacturers to suppliers to retailers on some sort of early order program that's incentivized. So right now we've been working off a two-tiered model. We have both commission dealers and stocking dealers, and commission dealers are working off of a guaranteed margin that we pay out on the sale price, and they don't have the accounts receivable, and they're probably dealing with less logistics on average. Our stocking dealers are working with variable margin. They're pre-buying the product, owning the product, and reselling it largely at a higher rate, getting better returns on their investment, making that investment and getting a higher return on it. They're handling the accounts receivable, and they're doing more of the logistics. So I just wanted to take a look at both of these models here. I try to think of why you'd want to be a commission dealer, and those are compelling reasons too. And we're going to have a high percentage of our guys are simply going to remain as commission dealers. I get it, and we love and respect you, and I think that's still going to work for us. But why you'd want to be a commission dealer is you're dealing with reduced risk. You're not going to have as many processes. You're not going to have inventory, but you're going to get paid less per acre, per ton of what you sell, or you're going to make less. So those are good things to consider. But looking at why be a stocking dealer, you're able to lock in prices. And this is an interesting one because we are offering as a service publishing our prices in advance, for better or for worse. And it was really interesting because yesterday on Twitter I had somebody comment that that's one of their favorite things about Biosol, is that we list our prices right on our website, that you don't have to call the dealer and wait for them to call you back on what the price is. And I think customers should appreciate that, and we simply give guys the opportunity. It's our job to educate guys. You can buy at this price, put money down, get your product later, or you can wait and purchase it when you're ready, but know that you'll pay a higher price. And this is all to get our logistics and the manufacturer set up. I mean, the manufacturer has to hire people, have equipment, move stuff around, procure pads. There's a huge capital investment, buy machinery to process this stuff. There's a Yargus machine coming to Regina shortly. The manufacturer needs to know as much as possible. It's difficult for us to target what we're going to sell in a brand new business. And it's hard to understand exactly what our growth looks like, but that's our job. That's part of our role. But the interesting thing is you're locking in prices on Biosol. I mean, you guys basically know how we do our business in terms of pricing, and we're, so far, to my knowledge, we're going to continue with that methodology. And so it's not like you're going to buy biosol for 270, 265 or something, and it's going to go to one. Like, you're not going to lose $100 a ton on it and go out of business, like some people did. We'll never forget with Foss. It went from 1,200 to 700 or 800, and nobody will ever forget that. Unless, you know, it's just not going to happen in our business where we're at with our price point and our business model. So you've got a guaranteed price in there. So there's even maybe less risk of early ordering and having the price go against you. In fact, we're designing it so that you can capture more margin during the higher price selling season when guys are coming more on demand and last minute. You have the opportunity to take advantage of the discount, whether it's the basic early order program or the special limited time only manufacturer discount that we're providing from the manufacturer to get the blood flowing. You can get extended terms through these early order programs. We can talk about that. You can secure and place your inventory earlier, and this ties into number 5. Getting your inventory in place and trucking it and tendering it and placing it on your customer's field spread in a nice, 60 to 100 foot width is vastly different than last minute sending piles to the field. And we're just seeing that. And I'm coming to the realization in my heart that long term, everybody that is going to be really successful as a dealer long term is going to scale up to that point. And you're at different places on the distribution curve in terms of adoption of this. I get it. But I think people are going to find out over time that sending piles to fields, the 400 acres per load thing is unwieldy. Issues with, piles coming and freezing or whatever it is. When you're handling stuff for your customers long term, you're going to build a way better business. You're going to sell more. You're going to have higher customer satisfaction. You're going to make more margin. And we're seeing our top dealers are doing that very effectively and making money and building a good business in that regard. So part of the whole thing too is help us service you and the manufacturer service you. And if nobody orders till the very last minute, it makes it for a very tough business. And I've already talked about margin synergies, and I guess everybody's heard my little spiel about trucking it and storing it and tendering it and spreading it and making money all the way along the sales process to the customer. So I probably don't need to reiterate that, but also what I see long term is that when you make a commitment, it triggers the whole cycle of motivation. So you commit to something, you get the courage to go out and execute it, you get the capability, you scale up, you do get the stuff you need, and then you have the confidence to do it again. And guys that are doing the early order program this year are going to be more comfortable doing it again and again and making that extra margin, servicing their customers better, taking advantage of extended terms and all that. And I do think, for better or for worse, I think that the dealer model is going to evolve in this direction, and it'll simply be something that gravitates towards the normal business of fertilizer. As much as we have a very unique product, we're here to scale it. That's our duty. And part of our duty is to raise awareness and create demand at the farm gate. So you guys are invited, and all your customers and everybody in the universe that's interested in what we're doing is invited to this BioCycle Sustainability Loop tour on Tuesday, December 5th from 1 till 5. And you can take a look at how BioCycle Solutions recovers nutrients from that normally would go to landfill. And if you've never taken the depackaging facility tour, it's just visceral. It's just unbelievable. You would love it, and you should encourage people in your network to come and take it. We're leaving on a bus from the Calgary TELUS Convention Center where the Farm Forum is taking place, leaving at 1 o'clock, coming back at 5 o'clock, and in the meantime, we're going to be at the depackaging facility. We're going to be having hospitality events at the Big Rock Brewery, and it's going to be really good. So we've got room for a bus full, and that's it. But it's going to be really cool. Farm Forum last year was a really great show. We did a lot of presentations. It was awesome networking. Rob already touched on that, but it was really good. And this year we're going to be there again representing BioSol. BioCycle Solutions Full Force BioCycle has made a huge investment in this show, so you as dealers should be telling your customers about it. trying to get people there. It's just great intimate traction for us with our customers, and can be a lot of fun. I left this in here just as a note that we're not paying the credit card fees in January on behalf of customers. That will be an extra charge. That's policy change there. I've got my dancing guy. I think this is like the 3rd or 4th week I had my little dancing guy in here. Spreading on snow. I mean, some guys are still spreading, but it is a challenge. I'm down in, I was down in the southwest corner of Saskatchewan, and it's actually not bad spreading conditions right now, but lots of areas have lots of snow. And just be careful when you guys are doing that. Make sure that you're comfortable with what you're doing. Make sure that product's going down through the snow. Make sure the temperature is okay. Watch out for getting the in-betweens in terms of temperature. And just make sure to work with Graham on if you are getting any more product out of the pad. I know some guys are still going. It's less and less. It's unfortunate November closed in on us the way it did, but that's life. And yeah, just work with us to coordinate customer satisfaction on that. I don't know if I'm going to go on a limb and say Mark Green's going to be on the call next week. It's been a challenge to get him on manufacturing, but it sure worked out good this week to have Rob on. I really appreciate that. So yeah, guys, we do still have this early order on today. We'll be making some calls, Lloyd and I, to wrap that up. If you have any customer orders, let's get that in today. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me on the webinar. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to Rob. I know I was pretty blown away. That was a great guest. And if you guys need anything in the network, let us know, whether it's myself or Lloyd or Graham or Karen and Trista. We're here to service you guys. So have a great week, and we'll have another webinar next week, hopefully. And take care out there. I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much.